What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Engelman for Awesemo.com, and you are about to listen to The Night Shift, Sunday night's podcast taking a look at the Monday slate. I'm going to focus mostly, and by mostly I mean entirely, on the early slate. We'll have the morning breakdown show, myself and Jake, going over everything, but we'll try to get this one in for the early slate. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the main slate. 7 games on the early tomorrow on Labor Day, so we will be laboring for you because we're not going anywhere. It's still DFS to do. There's still baseball. We still have golf to sweat. So I'm going to take a look at my top stacks to start, and then we'll take a look at some of my favorite pitchers for tomorrow, and then we'll get out of here. So right away, I've got 3 stacks that I like the most. Right now, the Tigers are my number 1 stack on both sites. I have the Pirates as my number 2 stack on FanDuel. They are 3rd on DraftKings. Then I have the Red Sox as my number 2 stack on DraftKings. They are 4th on FanDuel. So I think it'll be best to start with the Tigers and work our way through. Tigers on the road in Chicago against the White Sox. Ronaldo Lopez going for Chicago. You know, I try to stack against Ronaldo Lopez pretty regularly. Just has a propensity to give up runs. He projects with a FIP north of 5 in Steamer, and that's really all I need to know. Tigers only have a 4.3 run implied total, though. The reason that they're so popular tomorrow, at least for me, is they're super, super cheap. And it's not necessarily something you need, but I think that they naturally go hand in hand with Max Scherzer. He's 12-2 tomorrow, and he is the only pitcher above 10,000 on both sites. So I like Tigers. I like the Tigers as a stack that sort of makes everything else work. They're more like an Uber secondary stack than anything else, but I'm just going to have so many different bits of them in order to make other big-time stacks, you know, like, say, the Red Sox, for example. It'll be easier to make them work. So when I take a look at the Tigers, I see a ton of value. Almost everybody grading out with a green-shaded preference ranking for me, which for those of you that watch our morning shows, green means good. So I really like Candelario if he's leading off. He's better against lefties than righties as a switch hitter, but you know, no big problems there. He's 2,900 on FanDuel, 3,700 on DK. Just a really nice value. I feel similarly for Jim Adducci, 2,300 on FanDuel, 3,400 on DraftKings. Just another really nice bargain. Castellanos generally transcends matchup. You can play him almost always. He's the real true solid hitter for Detroit. And then you can go mildly dumpster diving. You can get guys like Jacoby Jones for minimum salary on FanDuel, James McCann $100 above minimum, 2,700 on DK. Like, I'm not terribly fond of these guys, but Lopez has a propensity to give it up. So I'm going to use every little bit I can out of the Tigers in their matchup in order to fit in guys like Scherzer, or if I'm not using Scherzer, every single bat I want otherwise. They will be a very, very big piece of what makes everything work for me. I expect that line to rise just a little bit. Although the Tigers have been bad against righties, I'm willing to go against it. So give me tons of Candelario, Adducci, Castellanos, Vmart, I'm fine with on both sites. Nico Goodrum, I'm perfectly fine with on both sites. Even Ronnie Rodriguez, the dual eligibility second and short on DraftKings, $3,100. It just makes things work. So I really, really like the Tigers tomorrow. Too much value to overlook. After that, we're going to take a look at my next team, which would be the Pirates. Pirates are at home against the Reds. Reds have Matt Harvey on the hill. So, again, someone you're looking to stack against. The Pirates grade out similarly to the Tigers in that they're pretty cheap. They're another stack that you could use to make the expensive stuff work. So if the Tigers weren't your bag, take a look at Pittsburgh and Matt Harvey. 4.7 run implied total for the Pirates. They've been significantly better against righties. 96 weighted runs created plus. League average rates for slugging and ISO. So I'm happy to go there. Tons of lefty bats that look good. You've got someone like Corey Dickerson slotted to hit 5th. 2,400 on FanDuel, 3,700 on DK. He's probably one of the better values on FanDuel of the entire slate. We've got Starling Marte leading off. I love him. Adam Frazier, Gregory Polanco. It's a lot of outfield bats, which is tough, but it does allow you to rotate all 4 projected outfield bats: Marte, Frazier, Polanco, and Dickerson. I'm comfortable using all of them, so feel free to mix and match. And if you're lucky on DK, you can use Adam Frazier as the second baseman. I really like Francisco Cervelli, hitting cleanup, 3,900 on DraftKings. It's a really nice price for a catcher. Josh Bell is someone that grades out really well for me. 3,300 on FanDuel, 3,700 on DraftKings. I'd happily go there. Colin Moran, minimum salary on FanDuel. Again, incredible value. They're just really easy to fit in. It's going to be more outfield heavy if you're stacking up the Pirates, but to me, that's fine. There are plenty of other options because you're able to save so much money. On FanDuel in particular, they are just an incredible bargain. You get Polanco and Marte over 5,000. It changes it a bit, but you can just use one of those guys, use Dickerson as a second outfielder, grab Cervelli, Josh Bell, and you've got a really cheap stack on DK. And it's Matt Harvey. I don't have a terribly large amount of respect for him any longer, so feel free to stack against him. The whole lineup looks pretty good. I mean, I don't need a ton of Jordy Mercer in my life, but if it's part of the stack, I don't have a problem with it. Now, finally, we're going to take a look at the Red Sox. This one's going to be a little bit more normal. These guys are way more expensive than these other stacks, but this is what you can get to if you need to. Toussaint going for Atlanta tomorrow. He's just not ready for this, in my opinion. Too big of a walk rate, and that's not something you want to have to worry about when you're facing the Red Sox. Red Sox have been nuking right-handed pitching all year, save for apparently James Shields today. Still a little salty about that. I just want a ton of Red Sox, and I'm going to have more than enough money to pay up to do it. Betts, Benintendi, Moreland, JD, Bogarts, Eduardo Nunez, Kinsler. I like all of those guys on FanDuel. I'll have them all in abundance. Mitch Moreland grading out as one of the better values on the slate, $2,900 on FanDuel. Looks great. If you needed me to rank the outfielders for tomorrow, on DK, I would say it's Betts, then Benintendi, then JD. On FanDuel, I would say it's the same order. Benintendi only 3,800 on FanDuel. Can't turn that down. Look, the Braves look great. Eduardo Nunez, 2,500, certainly has the pop. Ian Kinsler certainly has enough pop to, snag a home run. It's not likely, but the top of the order is just too powerful. If these guys get on and you can have Betts or Benintendi, Moreland, JD all hitting with runners on, it's a scary proposition. I love the Red Sox tomorrow. I'm going to have way more than enough salary to pay up for them. If you're not using Scherzer, the next highest guy is going to be Cole Hamels at 9,400 on DK. You're going to have a really, really cheap overall pitcher salary, which means bats are easy to get. So feel free to grab the Red Sox. I don't really have anybody else that stands out. The Cubs are my number 3 stack on FanDuel. Only other team that I didn't talk about then would be the Astros, who are the number 4 stack on DK. Subject to change, obviously. We'll go over this in the morning, but those are my 3 teams that I'm taking a look at. Now for pitching, man, it's a weird one. Max Scherzer, 12-2 on DK, 11-5 on FanDuel. He is the highest priced pitcher, and it's not even close. He's got a date with the Cardinals. Nats are at home. Cardinals 3.3 run implied total. Miles Mikolas on the hill opposite Scherzer. Look, I think the Cardinals are solid, but I'm just really not so worried about them. Only Matt Carpenter. Matt Carpenter is the only bat that I'm really nervous about. The rest of it's all righty-righty, and I'm happy to have Scherzer in that scenario. But Matt Carpenter leading off is the only guy that gives me any sort of pause. There's some swing and miss in this lineup, so I'm not worried about Scherzer's upside. I have him projected for 9.1 Ks, actually significantly higher than anyone else. Next closest guy on the slate is Cole Hamels at 6.1. I'm going to be playing a ton of Scherzer. Those cheap bats that I've mentioned, the Pirates and the Tigers, are going to be my conduit to that. And there's plenty of cheap pitching to go to as well if you want to keep your costs low. I see no way to avoid Max Scherzer. I'll have him, if I had to guess, probably north of 40%. One guy I definitely don't want tomorrow is Trevor Williams. Everyone around him, he's at 8,500 on DK. 7,600 on FanDuel. Everyone around him just grades out as a higher upside, higher value guy. So I just wanted to point him out as someone I'm not really looking at. Dallas Keuchel is another one of my faves at the top, but only 7,900. I think that's a really, really interesting price point for him. Gets a date with the Twins. Twins sat 2/3 of their lineup today, but Twins have hit lefties with an 85 weighted runs created plus this season, 371 slugging, 126 ISO, just miles and miles below average. So I think Keuchel at 7,900 has a really high floor. The Twins just haven't gotten it done against lefties, and I think Keuchel can just cruise here. I would say that Keuchel has one of the highest floors of the day. I think that he makes for an excellent cash option on both sites. Keuchel only 9,000 on FanDuel. He's someone that I'm going to have in abundance. I would guess 35, 40, even 45% for Keuchel. And then finally, the other guy that I think is going to be a very nice value, Vince Velasquez. Velasquez pitching for Philadelphia on the road against the Marlins. Marlins are going with Jose Urena. I just don't have a lot of respect for the Marlins bats. They're flaccid, I think might be a decent word for it. 83 weighted runs created plus, 123 ISO, 366 slugging against righties this season. They're just hapless, and that's going to allow Velasquez to be aggressive. Doesn't have to worry too much about making mistake pitches because they don't really have anybody that has the ability to touch them up. Nobody in the Marlins lineup has a projected ISO higher of 167. That's just barely above league average. So I think Velasquez can be aggressive. If he can get deeper into the game, a double-digit strikeout performance is not out of the question. But he is a guy that I'm going to have a ton of. And because of his price point at 7,400, you could pretty easily use him with Max Scherzer if you want. It does create a $9,800 average pitcher salary, but I think there's enough cheap bats out there to get you to where you need to be. I can't imagine not wanting to have a ton of him. So Scherzer, Dallas Keuchel, Vince Velasquez, those are going to be my three favorite arms of the early slate. If you're looking for a value play, I do sort of like the opposite side of this Phillies-Marlins game. Having a little bit of Jose Urena at 6,400 would be someone that I would be interested in terms of value. I probably don't want too much Matt Harvey or Zach Davies or Kyle Gibson for that matter. So focus on the three pitchers that I mentioned, Scherzer, Keuchel, Vince Velasquez. I think that'll put you out in front of everyone. That's where I'm at right now. We'll have a ton of content tomorrow, 2 shows in the morning, the normal DFS strategy show with myself and Jake, and the newly minted process show, myself and Laffy making our debut tomorrow. We'll have Adam on the deep dive article for the day, and then we're going to get back into our normal content schedule. I'm not entirely sure if from A to B, Andrew and Ben's new show is going to be going or not because of the holiday, but we'll have Laffy and Adam back for the deeper dive starting around 5 p.m. Eastern. That'll run till 6. Then we'll transition into Jake and Chris on the Live Before Lock stream all the way up to 7 o'clock. We're slowly getting into the football season now, so keep your eye out for all of our football content. If you haven't heard and you are an Awesemo.com member previous to the FanVice acquisition, check out our homepage right now. We have a Slack channel for premium members, and it's a really great discussion, a really active community of people taking a look at baseball, basketball, college football, golf, hockey, MMA, NASCAR, NFL, soccer, tennis. The list goes on and on. We have an active group of people in there. So if you go to our homepage, you should see a link, a post with directions for Slack for everybody that is not a part of it yet. And if you are interested, come on in. We are happy to have more and more people in there talking DFS. That's where we're at now, people. Tons of content coming. This FanVice merger has been, FanVice acquisition, sorry, I misspoke, has been really excellent for us. We are finalizing the schedule for the overnight podcast in the next few days. You may have been used to having 6 days a week of Jake Hari, but we're going to be changing it up a little bit. It's going to be a 2-man booth overnight for the podcast, a revolving door of Jake and Adam, Dan, and Laffy just anybody that wants to have a part of it. EMAC, we've got a ton of content coming. This is what we've been waiting for since we started earlier this year, and I think people are going to be really happy with what we're rolling out. So best of luck. I hope everybody has a fun and safe Labor Day. I hope everybody had a great weekend. We will be back tomorrow with all of the content, breaking down the entire slate, both early and the main. So tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m., myself and Jake breaking it down. Bye-bye.